a couple of questions come in about political decisions. So we've certainly seen the situation where there was a $2 billion deal done with between the United States and Pfizer BioNTech with regard to the one particular vaccine. And that seems to fly a bit in the face of the notion of that of the cautious optimism that we see. So, and yet your maps, Mariangela, show the whole world, and the United States doesn't fit into that certainly at the moment. Let's hope that changes. I wonder if I can start with Dr. Rocio Sáenz and ask her if she shares that cautious optimism. I need you to unmute your. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I have some dogs here and sometimes it's noisy. Sorry. Yes, I share the feeling that we have to be cautious in this moment. Of course, we are, on one hand, we feel very, very optimistic because there is a lot of investment into different companies and countries to invest in how to have a very quickly vaccine. But we know that the vaccines needs time. And needs time not only for produce the vaccine, but also to pass through the different phases, and also the production. We need a lot amount of vaccine for all over the world. And I want to say that I was reading about the different strategies that the region and the WHO has handled, but I also try to put in the table that we need also not only to assign the different percentage of vaccine. I think this is maybe we can talk a little bit later about that, because we ask for equality moment, not for equal moment. And for that, I think we have to keep in mind this idea.
It's a very, very important distinction between equality and equity. And I think you make a very important point. I'm going to move to Professor Sheila To and ask her to also address that same general issue, but also we've had a comment from a group, Home Doctors Uganda, who talk about the importance also of primary health care in this whole process. Now, I know you did touch on it, Sheila, but I wonder if you would just elaborate on both of those issues. And you will need to unmute.
Thank you very much. Let me share also, say that I also share that cautious optimism, but based on the experiences that I've had, both as an activist, as a minister, and also as the regional director of UNAIDS, where I saw that much as we say resources will be shared equally, in real life, they're not. As a minister, I used to have quite a few quarrels with Gavi, because they would say, well, Botswana has resources. You are well established, and therefore you don't qualify for Gavi, which is exactly that same graph that was shown by Mariangela, the countries that qualify. And I would say to them, look, something has to be done because Botswana doesn't have any more resources than the other African countries. It's just well governed, that's all. So that even now where you see the map that is saying middle income countries, Botswana, South Africa, and Namibia, I mean, it becomes a burden on them because they have to use their meager resources, while other countries that sometimes have even better resources than them, just because they're not well governed, get that. I mean, now is the activists coming out to say, look, I also mentioned zero tolerance for corruption and the fact that in a lot of countries, 20 to 40% of funds are wasted through corruption and inefficiency. Is there a mechanism that WHO or that whole COVAX thing is going to do to ensure that really there is good governance and even those resources go where they're most needed? For example, what guarantees us that when those vaccines are sent to the countries and you say, okay, we are prioritizing healthcare workers, we are prioritizing the older adults, what guarantees that when they reach me as a minister in Botswana, I decide that no, my family is going to get them first? And then also, how do I ensure that the people who have always been labeled as hard to reach, you know, we have that in the AIDS lingo, they're hard to reach. Yes, yet they're there, they're not hard to reach. We are the ones who are hard to reach because they can't get to us. So you find that it will be still that same thing. Yeah, this was supposed to be, but those are hard to reach. So that's why in my emphasis, I was saying, but we need accountability by everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. And, you know, that issue of good governance is so critical in everything that, that we do. And I think it's really important to keep an emphasis on it. Trying to manage it is, of course, incredibly challenging. I've got a couple of questions that no doubt, Mariangela, you would like to pick up from some of those comments, but I have a couple of questions. One is that in May this year, the World Health Assembly meeting stated that COVID-19 immunisation would be a public health good, and it became clear that governments were negotiating both bilateral and exclusive multilateral pacts. You have presented something quite different. But what meaning and impact do you think that the World Health Resolution does mean now? Does that fit into your optimism, your cautious optimism? And so can you just address the global health public good in reality?
Yeah. In reality, the World Health Assembly COVID resolution is what we're basing our work on. You know, we have the mandate that was given to WHO by the COVID resolution, and does it impede one country to go into bilateral agreements? It doesn't. You know, it's impossible, and you know it. It may be that the political situation changes, and then it changes. Right? It doesn't. But that's the background where this we can rest assured that member states have approved the resolution, and the equitable and fair access, equitable access and fair allocation are based on a resolution that was approved by all member states, including some of those who are doing bilateral agreements. I know that this gets a lot of media attention, but actually there are not too many, right? And it's also where, like I showed you on the map as well, you can do bilateral agreements with 4 or 5 companies, or maybe 10, you can, right? But only if you're a very rich country, but we don't know whether it's going to be a Chinese vaccine, an Indian vaccine, which vaccine will be successful, right? So you may be investing in something that won't work. I hope you are doing a good investment anyway. But the issue that Sheila raised about a guarantee, you know, you've been a Minister of Health, you know that countries have the autonomy to decide their own policies once the vaccine reaches their territory, right? We can recommend, WHO has the expert committee, will do recommendations, the policy recommendations. And then I think that's where it's super important that everybody knows about the criteria that will be in the recommendations, right? Because right now we have this global public health goals, but once we have a vaccine, there will be a policy recommendation. And then the pressure from academia, the pressure from civil society in general, country level, for countries to follow what they have agreed internationally, it's probably what could make a difference. Michael, do you want me, because there are other questions here, can I address them? How do you want to?
You'll look at the questions as well. So I'm trying to combine some of them.
Okay.
But there's certainly one I think that you would like to address, one on intellectual property, I think is important. And also, I think the question about Gavi, is it the best mechanism? If you can address those, that would be good.
Good, good. On the intellectual property, we see that the intellectual property is going to interfere on access, may interfere on access for the therapeutics in this first phase. Okay, because with the results coming up, it doesn't look like, except for dexamethasone and possibly other medicines, small molecules that actually impact on the effects of the virus, not on the virus itself. These are medicines that are not under patent and so on. But the rest that's in the pipeline is high cost medicines like the biotherapeutics, the monoclonal antibodies. So we expect, and we are looking into it right now as we speak. There are groups working on the intellectual property aspects, the protection and the possibility of getting the biosimilar producers engaged early as well. No, because this is a biological is different from a chemical, from a small molecule in terms of you don't have a generic. It's more complicated. So we expect that there could be a delay on 2 or 3 years until you have an affordable product, and this needs to be addressed right now as the studies start to come out. We should have some more robust studies on this by maybe September or October. On the vaccines, the main barrier to start with, it's not IP. You know, it's not. Right now, it's not IP. Although we do have some groups that are looking at what's the confirmation of the IP landscape. There are too many. There are too many right now. There are too many vaccines. And the initial constraints will be in regard to the scarcity. Right? And Gavi, already addressing the issue of Gavi, will be doing negotiations together with PAHO and UNICEF and WHO in terms of having a ceiling on how much it would be paid by upper middle income countries and high income countries. You know, so that there is a lot of, because there is also a lot of public investment, a lot of public money on these vaccine developments, right? And except for the ones that are not the ones that are being developed in the US now. You saw the $400 million, putting $500 million, and usually they don't have access provisions attached to them. No, but other countries apparently do have some provisions in the vaccines that are being developed under CEPI and so on. On the issue whether Gavi is the best, it's not the PIP mechanism. It's not, you know, in this week, because we learned a lot on the PIP mechanism. First, it took 5 years, the pandemic preparedness. It took 5 years to be negotiated. And right now it controls a very small portfolio of vaccines to be delivered to lower and lower middle income countries. We are talking about a different ball game at this stage. So it's a mechanism that will be hosted by Gavi, but it has a different type of governance, like where WHO and other parts are in the governance, but also will have a country's participant council. So this is something that we're still developing. So
indeed. Thank you very much. I'll go to Dr. Rocio Sáenz, and by all means address any of the questions that have come before. But there's two questions that I think that are important. The first one is about essential workers. We've talked about vulnerable populations. Socioeconomics, of course, plays a part. Indigeneity is important. But where do essential workers fit? And I want you to think about essential workers, health workers, of course, but also other essential workers, police and so forth. How do they fit in a vulnerability-based program? And can you also address the issue of local production? What do you think will be the possibility of local production of vaccines and the role that might play in equitable distribution? So let's start with Dr. Rocio Sanz.
I think, I believe, and I expect that this global investment to produce the vaccine also is going in parallel how investment in the countries. And I think this idea needs to take the strengthening that the country has and the region has, like I was saying before, Brazil, Costa Rica, Panama, and other countries, that they also already have a high technology and knowledge and human resources, very in the high level to produce and to be part of the global response for producers for all over the world. But also this kind of institution that we have in the region and in the countries needs investment from the national investment, maybe public investment also, but also for the global companies. And I think if they can take a technological transfer that the agreement, the global agreement permits, is allowed that to do that, is not without of the law. We can really be part of this global response with the strengthening the capacity on in the region and also in the countries. But I think also it's important that I say in my presentation, we don't expect that the companies transfers the risk or the cost. We are expecting a good relationship that permits that the development, the technology in the countries, and has a equity relationship in this global arena. And not only to be a company that I pay for producer. We need this moment of the world needs all the people be growing and developing the technology at the regional and the local point of view.
And Professor Sheila Tlu, I wonder if you can not only address those issues, give your thoughts, see what you have to add, but also the issue of vaccine hesitancy and fear of vaccines. We have a question on that one as well. I wonder if you could just address that. After I've heard your answer, I'm going to give each of the speakers the opportunity just to do a summary from their point of view, and a very, very brief 1 minute, and then I'll draw the webinar to a close. So Sheila, we need to come off mute.
Okay. In my presentation, I did state how important it is for countries to participate in the global vaccine trials. I'm saying so because even before I became a minister, I was at the University of Botswana, and I participated in the HIV vaccine trial network as part of that with the Harvard AIDS Institute. You see, that made us have the community advisory boards, and we're able to educate our people on what it is that's needed. And they were able to volunteer, without any fears of what's going to happen. So, and we even had to go to Parliament to convince the members of Parliament to say, when you go to your constituencies, try, this is what we have, and they were able to spread the message. And we need that very same aspect right now for countries to participate in these vaccine trials, so that their citizens get to know what it is. Otherwise, you have those conspiracy theories of where they're going to vaccinate us with things that will make us sterile, things that don't work. So that's needed. So that for me, I know there are quite a number of trials going on, but I still would urge a lot of our countries, especially the very low income countries and middle income, to participate. They have universities and they can be able to collaborate with international institutes, so that we have a candidate being tried in Botswana, another being tried in Namibia, another in Mexico, another in Costa Rica, another in India. That way, nobody gets to question what kind of, product this is. Is it going to harm us or whatever? And I think that's where that lack of knowledge, that ignorance, is really the one that is making people so cautious that even when that vaccine is found, you'd be amazed how in some countries they'll actually be saying, we don't even want it. So it's really a problem. Yes.
Thanks so much, Sheila. The final question I want to address was one about conflict of interest. And you'll see on the slide, as we thank our sponsors, the University of Geneva, the International Immunisation Policy Task Force, and Pfizer. The question was, why would we accept money from Pfizer? It was a completely unconnected grant, and it allows the task force to carry on its work. Of course, if we could manage with no money, of course we would. And this is always a challenge for organisations like ours, but we do appreciate that support. I'll go after I've heard just a final overview from each of you. I shall go to a video on the World Congress on Public Health. Maria Angela, can I start with you, please?
You made the final remarks.
Yes,
Good. I think this has been very, very, very good, this discussion, and I also like to see the questions on the chat there, because I think the reality is we need right now very pragmatic solutions. And even we need structures that are already there and that will be helpful in connecting. I totally agree with Sheila in terms of the research and development, the research institutions and participating as and there's a lot of that happening already, because there are too many products and the researchers are going after, the producers are going also after the epidemic, right, as the pandemic is moving from the different regions. And with that, I'd like to say that we are very much counting on the developing countries vaccines manufacturing network, which is present in 17 countries and has 50 associates already. And we are counting on these partnerships to be able to scale up production of any vaccine that proves to be safe and effective. I think it's important, my final remarks, that transparency in the processes are key, and because they are key for accountability. And the more transparent, we are trying to be very transparent, WHO is trying to be very transparent. It's very important that at the country level, that civil society and other stakeholders also hold the governments accountable, because access is a political commitment, right? Access may be it's a political decision at the end of the day. If you're going to have a fair and equitable access, you need governments to commit to do that, and to that in a transparent manner. And I think more than ever, we need solutions that can be used across the globe in all countries. And this is important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That leads very well into the issues that Sheila was talking about, and she might like to just choose one or two take-home messages.
Well, for me, it's really to thank WHO for their leadership in this global thing. Having worked with them for quite a while, I know that they are really set and they can be able to work with countries and influence them. But I simply want to emphasize that let's just know that equitable access in the ultimate means leaders of countries being accountable to their citizens, so that we should not forget that part. I would like a situation where, I mean, this has been a very informative webinar, and I know that people have really liked it. I'm seeing comments even on my phone, but I'm hoping we can hold more. And one of the ones that I would like to have is where we're having civil society and what it is that they're doing right now to make their leaders accountable, so that when a vaccine is developed and available, there is that equitable access, even at country level. So it will really be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Rocio Sáenz. You need to unmute.
Again, sorry. Thank you for the invitation and to be here with these lovely women, Sheila and Maria Angela, and also thank you to you, Michael, to give us the opportunity. And I think that the last words I want to say is that as a Latin American woman, we are in the most unequal region of the world. The idea on my presentation is to give in this condition, we need a real commitment for equal treatment for how to approach the COVID-19 and beyond. And for that, it's important to strengthen the health system, the primary health, the investment on the industry in our countries, and the commitment of strengthening the regulatory processes in the country. But also we need that the equity is not only a commitment for the political at the country level. The equity needs a commitment at the global level. And for that, each strategy has to be reviewed with the ethical point of view. Is contributing in that, in this new world, in a new world more equitable, and not only to sell products. And I think this is my last comment.
Thank you very much. One of the things that the World Federation of Public Health Association does through its more than 100 members internationally was try to influence government. And its advocacy is done, first of all, by building up partnerships with others. And it's I noted that one comment was that somebody has noted that I'm a member of Rotary International. In fact, I'm the district governor for Rotary International. And it's an organisation that is, first of all, started a project to get rid of polio from the world when there are 350,000 cases. At the moment, about 87 cases, I think. And that's despite COVID-19. Look, there are many, many things that we do that as individuals and as groups and as governments that can make a difference. And the thing that has been most common, what we've talked about today, is remember that issue of equity, not equality, equity. It's a very important distinction to make, and it's something that is been absolutely key to what we're doing. I want to thank Dr. Rocio Sáenz, Dr. Sheila Koo, Dr. Maria Angela Simao. Thank you so much for all you've put in, and we will be able to continue this discussion further because the World Federation of Public Health Associations Task Force on Immunisation will do some further webinars, but we also will have workshops at our World Congress on Public Health. And I'm hoping that my colleagues in Geneva will now play a video, a very short video to conclude on that conference. Are you able to do that now, Maria? And while she's doing that, I'll point out that we've had nearly 4,000 people who have been watching our webinar or on Facebook where it's been streaming. It has reached very, very widely.
That's
So I
great.
really, really appreciate your efforts. Are we able to do that?
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. It is greatly appreciated. There was a question about can this, we noted it's recorded, or for the presentations, WFPHA.org, World Federation of Public Health Associations, can be Googled. A good night from me, good morning where it's appropriate, or good afternoon.